Tuned in to Basic Black After Dark, the show that meets you where you are and gives you what you ask for. Tonight, we're digging into the real work, healing the parts of us we had to hide just to survive. Our focus is walking in your purpose with self discipline. We're diving into cracks in the surface, strength in the core, not easily broken. And we're exploring pages 24 through 27. So I'm hoping you listeners got your book, following on the conversation. It's a of truth tellers and thought shifters who are showing up with transparency and heart. We are also honored to be guided by our expert consultant, Dr. Carolyn Stevens, whose wisdom enables us to delve deeper and achieve greater insights. So, again, grab your workbook, settle in, and let's begin the journey of walking in your purpose with self discipline. Purpose without discipline can become a dream deferred. Panel: what daily habits or sacrifices have you had to commit to align with your purpose? And each course, somebody, what daily habits or sacrifices have you had to commit to align? Sacrifice with. Mm. When you found yourself off track, whether by choice, what helped the person? Was it a moment or was it a mindset shift? Rachel, intentional.
shift for me because of the simple fact that my faith in God got me back on track with my life situation because uh I had been brought up in the church and I had stepped away from God, and then some situations happened in my life to make me close our lives, no matter what, and we should allow Him to take control of our lives so that we can live our destiny and fit see where He sees fit in our lives.
Mm.
To be honest with you, I it's ironic because there was a period. I think we spoke about this briefly before. There was a period that I actually pulled away. I pulled away from the world. I pulled away from everybody. Friends, family, everybody. For 3 years, I didn't socialize. I didn't hang out. Nothing for 3 years. And I was under during the time I was undergoing rehabilitation and physical therapy. But that time helped me to reassess. I had people convinced that people had me convinced that I was quote unquote broken or damaged goods, and it really put me in a dark place for a long time. But when I realized the need to put myself, I don't want, I don't mean it from the standpoint of being selfish, but there's an adage: the virtues of selfishness simply means that you have to put yourself first, because if you can't help yourself, what good are you to anybody else? And so I had to reassess, because we're always told, we're taught, don't be selfish, don't be selfish. But when you look at it from a standpoint of living life, if you are not a little bit selfish, meaning put yourself first, then what good are you to anybody else? If you can't take care of yourself, who can you take care of? So
Absolutely.
the biggest obstacle, pardon me, but the biggest obstacle for me was putting myself back on the front burner, and without 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 diminishing the relationships with other people, I had to fix me first. And so that took me a process of 3 4 years. And people, I got phone calls, I was worried about you, and uh, but then I realized the worry was not about me per se and my well-being. The worry was that when they called upon me in need of something, I wasn't there. And
Mm,
when I realized that, it made the biggest difference in the world.
I second that. Yeah.
Allowed you to leave a room for healing and authenticity.
I believe so, yes. Short answer, yes.
So, Dr. Carolyn, you often speak about healing as both a personal and spiritual journey. How can individuals learn to see self discipline not as a punishment, but as a sacred practice, especially when their past drama or trauma or emotional wounds make structure feel like control rather than care?
Mm,
So discipline is one of the words that I absolutely love because the word discipline is a derivative of a Greek word which is called disciplus. And when you translate that word in the Greek, disciplus, it means to learn. So it means that we are learners. So when you look at the biblical passages, when Jesus called disciples, he called men who were learners. They were learners. And so when we think about discipline, and the reason why I wanted to preface what the meaning of that word was, is because now if we look at discipline as the process of learning, so you discipline yourself as far as how you eat, because I'm not punishing myself by abstaining from certain food. I'm learning how to eat better so that my body, so that my mind can be better. I discipline myself to exercise or to engage in physical activity because I'm learning to treat my body better. I'm learning how to get my body in shape. I discipline myself. I'm going to use me for example. I typically wake up anywhere from, well, on average, I wake between 6 and 6:30 a.m. I hadn't always did that, but the more business minded I became, I realized in order for me to get all the things done in a day that I want to get done,
in order for me to learn ways how to avoid being anxious, I needed to get up early. So I learned another way of managing my time. So uh, basically, when we talk about discipline, I think because people look at it the wrong way, they define the word discipline as being a bad thing, and so they associate it in a way that says to them, "I now have to live this." And there's nothing wrong with structure, okay? But I'm not, I don't have the ability to be free. You discipline yourself so you can be free. That's why you discipline yourself so that you can be free. Because people who live without discipline and structure, um, in in the long run, they're not going to end up being free. They're going to end up being bound. That's what's going to happen.
Wow.
So, what I would suggest for tonight's purposes and for our guests that are listening on, that we begin to take a deeper dive into what the definition of that word discipline is. It's not a bad thing. Discipline is a good thing. It means that I am in full of learning.
So that's one of those key action words I would say. So let's turn our attention to page 24 in the workbook. This section pushed us to reflect and take inventory of where we are in our journey. It guides us through 8 core actions, challenging us to identify what's holding us back, removing what no longer serves us, setting boundaries, building new habits, creating space for healing, nourishing our bodies with healthy food, changing our thinking, and giving ourselves grace. Which one of these actions has been the hardest for any one of you, and why?
I'll go. I think I would talk for me. I would say the eat often and but healthy, because I think, as you mentioned before, Black Diamond, we're all busy, and sometimes it's just quicker to get something unhealthy than to take the time to get that the healthy part of it. And I think it's important to make sure that you are eating healthy and correctly, because you have to you have to fuel your brain to get through your day, versus what you put in your body is most important because it determines how you feel throughout the day. So for me, I'm learning to change that. As I am becoming more busy, it's important for me to change that, and be more disciplined in that area, so I can make it through my day without feeling, so sluggish, um, or sleepy. So that will probably
So
be the
it's so ironic. Maybe we can give you one of those pies that we were talking about earlier. That may boost you up. That may boost you up a little bit. We'll make sure that you get one of those pies.
that will
I ain't gonna mention
definitely.
what pie it is, but we're gonna make sure you get one of those pies. So it'll just give you that energy. Farron, which one has the hardest, which one has the greatest impact in transforming the way you walk in your purpose? Of those disciplines, I'm sorry, those key action words. See, I'm saying discipline already. Thank you, Dr. C, for that.
She already put it
Which
in.
one had the impact in transforming the way you walk in your purpose?
You know what? I would have to say change perception about willpower. I think for
Mm.
me, I can just admit and be transparent about always being an overthinker. I think for me, changing my perception about a lot of things has gotten me to where I am now. Everything is always mental for me, and then surrounding myself with such supportive people, like Rachel, who's always going to uplift and empower. And so just being around people who kind of help you create those good habits, even in those positive thought patterns, is the biggest thing for me on this journey.
We got a fan over here for you, Farron. Bruce Logan. He says, if you're not following author Farron yet, you're missing out on pure truth, real stories, and powerful inspiration. Wow. He
Yes.
said, hit that follow button and feel the difference words can make. There you go. Hey. So, anybody else want to share or have identified with any one of those action words, whether it was impactful or whether it was one of the hardest things for you?
I can go. I would say for me, setting clear goals and having an execution plan is probably like one of my biggest struggle. And I always blame it on me being a creative. It's like, so sometimes having an outline or a clear, like step by step, that doesn't always work. I'm a visionary. So like I see things, like I know what I want, and I kind of just haphazardly go about, making it happen. And then when it happens, it's like, oh, like, yeah, like it worked out, so then I don't really have like a way to to track it. So I think that I appreciate what Dr. Carolyn, Dr. Stevens said about just having discipline and, um, not feeling like discipline is a punishment. It really is a tool to help us, be better and work towards the ultimate goal, which is freedom. And I don't know exactly how you worded it, Dr. Carolyn, but when you said, so you can be free as opposed to being in bondage, it's like when by the time you sit down and realize that everything you just did had no structure, it had no discipline, it's like you really just end up back at square one, in the form of bondage. Like you're not really living because you have no way to track it, you have no way to execute it again for another endeavor, you just kind of all over the place. So um that's actually, it's really hard for me. I just kind of go about stuff and pray to God that it works.
So black, I mean,
Well, this seems
Black
to be
Diamond. May
working.
I say something right there? Because I
Sure.
love that Shayna brought that out because I'm a creative as well, and I'm sure that a lot of people who are watching this would say, I'm a creative and I'm a free spirit, and which I am. I'm a creative and I'm a free spirit. So, um, God wants us to be live authentically, okay, and always continue to live your authentic life. So, what I found for me, because I am creative as well, is I always look at my why. Okay, okay. Well, why do I want to be free? And when we talk about freedom, what does freedom look like for me? Okay, so if I may use
Mm,
layman's terms here, okay, for me, I don't, freedom doesn't look like being broke for me. That to me, that's not freedom. Okay,
don't look
if
good on
you
me
broke,
either.
if you're broke, then you're not really free. That's what I meant by being free. So, what do I have to do in order for me to not go there? Okay, and so I realize that as a creative person, there's a part of my day that I like to have when I can just not do anything for a couple hours or an hour if I want to. And that kind of is really important to me, which is why I had to develop a system. And if I don't say anything here tonight, I want everybody here, our listeners, and all of us to learn that a part of the therapeutic journey in order to heal is because sometimes we did not grow up with systems, or we were coming into a family that is already a system, but unfortunately that system may have been broken. And so if that
Mm,
system itself was broken, then we develop broken types of habits. I hope everybody understand that. Okay. Or because of trauma, then those systems become broken. And so, with prayer, with connecting with the right people, which I think is very important, then we have to relearn effective and positive systems that we can put in place that help us to be our authentic self while we're in a place where we see ourselves moving and we see ourselves doing some things. So one of the things that I like to do is, because I know that I'm a free spirited person, um, you know, I like to work with people who may be different from me, different from me in terms of how they go about doing things, because I know that together we'll come up with, a much better plan. And so I'm very intentional about the way that I connect with people and who I connect with. And I'm not always looking for somebody to be like Dr. Carolyn. Sometimes I want to connect with people who are different from me so that I can learn different things. So I just wanted to throw that in there because
So,
I thought Shane is
so which one? Yeah, I loved her response. I think I'm gonna get a horn whenever I hear the word intentional. She know why I'm saying that because I just love that word intentional. Which one do you believe, Dr. Carolyn, people resist the most when they're trying to walk in purpose? Know, remove, set, build, create, eat, change, or give? And how do you help them back through that resistance in a way that honors both their healing and their growth?
change hands down. In my job, uh, change is the most challenging thing for client I have found. And if we're all honest here, all of us have some level of resistance to wanting to change. Why? Because we think that we're okay, that we think we're right. We just think that we're right. And why do we think that we're right? We think that we're right because we've been doing it for 10, 15, 20, 30, 40 years. Okay? And so if someone comes along and offers you a different way or a better way, then we automatically we resist that, and we resist that because there is a part of us that does not want us that we don't want to change. Okay, so change, I would say, it is the hardest. It is the hardest thing, you know. But ask yourself the question. You have to do a lot of introspection and ask yourself the question: how is that really working for you? How's that? How's that
So
working?
change can be so change can be a challenge for some as well. We explored the emotional challenges that can silently sabotage our progress, things like fear, guilt, shame, grief, or even self-doubt. Which emotional challenge has been the loudest in any one of your lives? And how have you learned to manage it without letting it define your path?
Hmm. I think anger has been, well, I mean, because when again, I have to go back to the results of the consequences of my actions, because I went to sleep for 7 months, and when I woke up, I had no idea who I was. Um, I had two businesses, and I'm not being boastful, but just realistic. I had two businesses. I was making oof, very, 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 very good money, and I could go where I wanted, do what I wanted, when I wanted, and didn't have to worry about it. And when I woke up and realized that had changed, I I was angry. I was bitter. Um, it took me several years to get beyond that. I had this habit, and again, Dr. Carolyn, you suggested the need for change, and the resentment, the resistance to it. And long story short, my late mother, she took me to this jewelry store where she said I used to frequent, and because I could not grasp the fact that I was not where I remembered being, I went in the store, and in less than an hour, I made purchases totaling over $25,000. And then when I realized,
Oh, wow.
when we left the store, my mother said, "Baby, you have to understand, you can't do what you used to do." And it still took me a minute for it to register, but I think that the challenge for anyone is, you know, accepting that change, whether it's your fault or not. And I had a discussion with someone, and she made a comment. She goes, I've been the same for 30 years." I'm like, that's not a good thing. Don't tell anybody that. That's not a good thing. But change is necessary. How does that 1 inch acorn grow into a massive oak tree without change?
Yeah, but
Wow.
can I chime in a little bit on the change?
Oh, definitely.
Yeah,
Yeah.
please do.
So I would say this: the biggest thing what I have learned about change, and I mean, we all are. Everyone is aware that one thing is constant in our lives, that everything will change. And regardless of the fact of if someone believes that they are in a place that they've been in for years, that is just not true. It's not true in the scheme of life. We all make incremental changes, small, big, medium, whatever that looks like in our lives. But I think that what a lot of times we're stuck on the concept of that we want everything to stay the same when nothing does.
Mm,
And as we're going through those things, I think the emotional tie to what's familiar is what keeps us from growing. And the familiarity of a situation keeps us from wanting to something different. And sometimes the thing that's different is the breakthrough that you need to actually get to where you want to go. So that's the biggest difference to me of change, of wanting to change and change already happening anyway. Like in BG's case, your change came and it had nothing to do with you personally. You had to adopt a new life, become someone that you did that from a person that existed to now becoming someone totally different and now living that life in a different capacity in a different way. Change is going to come our way no matter what. The biggest thing is having a mindset, the habit that understanding as life happens to you, giving yourself tools to be successful when it does, because it will.
Um,
true. Very
we
true.
have someone here, Bruce. He says that Rachel brings the structure, you bring the hunger. Yes, she does. She's intentional, guys. So, Dr. Carolyn, emotional changes, like we just discussed with the guilt and the self doubt, it often stems from wounds we haven't fully addressed. When people are trying to walk in purpose but are still emotionally triggered or stuck, how do you help them begin untangling those emotions without them feeling overwhelmed or shut down?
So again, in my practice and in my life, everything is based on a process. So as a therapist, I basically take people through a process. It's not a quick overnight fix, but it's through a process. And so when people are struggling with things like guilt, we go back again. One of my clients said, "Dr. Carolyn, that's your favorite word." It is because it's so powerful. The word why, because everything has a why. And to go back and to discover what is the why. How did you get to the why you feel guilty or you feel ashamed, because there is a why because of that. I often use this analogy. People just don't wake up one day and sit on the side of their bed and say, I think today I'm going to be a drug addict. It doesn't happen that way.
Mm,
Okay? Happen that way. And if we look at things like that, it should cause us to be a bit more empathetic and sympathetic and not so judgmental, because people don't make a decision that, hey, I'm going to be a certain way. What we're looking at is the result of a deeper why. There's always in speaking with Rachel, I think it was one day this week, and when Rachel and I talk, we have very powerful talks. But something that I said to her, I said, you have to see where a person is coming from, because they're always coming from somewhere. Where you see the person may just have been a destination, but you have to understand that they got to that destination for a reason and they're coming from somewhere. So in therapy, we learn to sometimes take the person back there or find out where exactly are they coming from, because that's where the ideologies have been shaped, their neuropathologies have been shaped. Basically, the way that they think is because they've come from somewhere. And so I'm the person that helps you to understand or to take a deep dive as to where have you come from. Basically, where have you come from? And I know that may sound simple because somebody might say, okay, well, they know where they came from. No, not necessarily. Not necessarily they don't know where they came from. We have all come from somewhere. We all behave the way that we do for various reasons. And when we are exuding a lot of toxic behaviors in our lives, in certain parts of our lives, we do have to begin to sit down and talk about the why. Why do I behave this way? Why am I really? And that's the part that I think where people resist the change is because they're really afraid of the deep dive. They are afraid of the deep dive, and so
Travita
staying where
says
you are,
absolutely.
yeah, staying where you are is just easier for some people, and that's why change becomes scary for some people.
Mm.
Yeah. So Travita says absolutely. And the why, with the why, some people have a plan. They have a plan A, B, or C. Purpose can't always follow a straight path though. Sometimes plan A doesn't work and we're forced to pivot. As you pursued your purpose, what has plan A looked like for you? And then life didn't go as planned. How do you adapt with a plan B or C without losing sight of your calling?
I
How, everybody, I believe, comes up with their plan. Yes, Shayna.
uh, this is
So,
Bobby. I
oh, I'm
wanted
sorry,
to
Bobby.
bring in something from our workbook on page 25 in the
Mm-hmm.
workbook, right up under the list of the action words. We see a sentence that says, "We are not born with the ability to manage our impulses. Self discipline is not something that you should expect yourself to have automatically." And this is a quote from Dr. John Webb. And that
Yes.
particular statement, as I was looking back over these action words of walking in purpose with self discipline, and I agree from experience and from being a disciple, which is now clearly identified as being a learner, that we're not born with that ability. We're already
That's right.
born into system, into a world, into a society, into a culture, into an environment that's already conducive to brokenness already, whether it's something that we have identified through our whys or not. And I like how Coach Rachel said it. There's some things that, they were changing anyway, but because we don't have the innate ability to recognize those changes, we don't, and when we see them, we don't have the innate ability to comprehend them. So there comes the wonderfulness of God's love for us, that He gives us therapists, He gives us life coaches, He gives us this platform. So it's not just one way or just meeting other people, as Dr. Carolyn says, that are different from you. Being discipled, being a learner, will cause our mindsets to shift, because we can at least reach that point of, I want to learn. Not that I've learned already, but I have a willingness to learn. So no matter what I'm brought into, whether it seems to be a negative or a positive, there's a place for learning. And then with that mindset, we become willing to listen. And when we're willing to listen, we can learn and we can change. But that barrier is already innately in us. So I appreciate what Dr. Webb has. And listen, if you don't have the workbook, you don't have the book, you need to get the book and the workbook. It's a learning process. It's not a read. This is not a read. This is actually a resource and a tool. That's different. Sometimes we buy things, and I mean, we have library full of books. We have, and I don't mean that in a slam because I'm an author among authors, but listen to hear me out. To have the mindset that I bought the book so that I can learn makes the difference between a great read on the shelf and then a life-changing experience. I want to learn, what does this even mean? So now there's a shift that does come when we take that position of I'm a learner. May not agree with what I'm hearing, but I'm gonna listen and I'm gonna learn. Our spirituality is something we don't have control over. That's why we can change with the wind. One day we've got it all together, next day we don't have it all together. That's our spirit
Absolutely.
being. So we're not the master of that. It doesn't matter. We're not the master of it. If it was, we wouldn't even have funky days. We would all have cool
Mm.
days.
Yes,
But we have
Chen.
funky days because we don't run that. That's spirit. So we have to go to the one who's able to discipline our spirits beyond our control. I want to thank each of you that are on this panel and the guests that are listening. One of my mottos or my bookmarks that I carry around my shoulder is I can learn from everybody. Everybody comes into my life with one goal. You're going to teach me something. I don't have to ask you. Your life is going to teach me. Everybody that I meet,
That's right.
I intentionally teach you something. You don't have to want to know it, but we teach one another. And so I'm grateful for that. The workbook is a tool. It is not a read. Cracks in the surface, strength in the core. I'm gonna say it again. This is not a read. This is not some entertainment. It is actually a tool. Be willing to learn. Be disciplined. Be disciplined. And you'll find out that way up on all them funky days and funky attitudes and all that stuff, there's a healing that's already in there. We just gotta be willing to learn so we can get to it. One last thing I want to say about being a part of this journey, as Dr. Carolyn said, it's a process. So when something doesn't work right away, it doesn't mean it wasn't effective. It just means it's a process. That's okay. It's okay to go through it. But one of my weaknesses, Black Diamond, from the other lesson and tonight is that when I'm faced with this type of a platform and in my personal life, I have to remind myself I'm an overcomer. I can't always take into context the things that have happened to me. I have to be a learner to know, listen, that happened, that was funky. I'm overcoming that. I can't keep rehearsing the story without a completed end. All of the abuse, trauma, drama, whatever that I have experienced, like
Yeah.
everybody listening to my voice now, that is a place where you have overcome. You have to have your mouth agree with that. I don't care if there's 100 things in your life. Well, let's just say 101. 100 of them are screwed up. 100 of them are screwed up. The
Mm.
marriage, the kids, the
Preach.
job, the money, the friends, all that is screwed up. There's still one thing that you have overcome. Now we can sit and keep singing the song about them 100, but you're gonna find people who are gonna get with you and say, "Look, we got this one right here going right, and we're gonna celebrate that, and we're gonna party with that, and we're gonna use that to determine you're not a victim forever, baby. You're not a victim forever.
Right.
You reach the point of
Thank you.
overcoming, and you can't rehearse it and cut the story off. Don't cut the story off because you've got a bad one. There's an ending to that thing in every area of life. There's an ending to the trauma. Yes, there is.
Thank
And you
you.
don't have to
Thank you
wait till you
so
hit the
much.
cross line to say, I've overcome. I've been married now 25 years. 5 of them years has been good.
Hmm.
That's right. So am I going to keep on
Mm.
rehearsing the other 20? What am I do that for?
Listen,
I have to keep drowning to go back and get that mess. So yeah, I can talk about a bad marriage. I can talk, and y'all will say, "Amen, sugar." But I'm gonna tell you something. You would grow stronger if I tell you about the 5 that was good. I have
There it is, Miss
overcome that.
Bobby.
yes,
I've overcome
There it
that.
is,
that
Miss
right
Bobby.
there.
Yeah, I was raped. It wasn't in 2025.
That right there.
I can't keep listen. I was broke, but that ain't today. I'm just saying. I've got great friends like y'all. What I'm gonna talk about in school, I didn't have no friends. It's important to know that, but it's also important to know the rest of the story. I'm friend with a doggone Christian therapist. Who would have thought that? I'm friends with a CEO, a coach, an intentional leadership coach. That's Rachel Ray. What you talking about? If you ever
So,
look at Arthur Farron, look, you ain't even got to give me the accolades that Arthur Farron McLemore has. She's my sister. So when she shine, I shine. You understand? When she make
All right.
footprints
Come
for
on,
me,
Miss Bobby.
I'm trying to tell you, when Shayna opened the door, here I come. You understand? Here I come. I don't have to have what you have. I just need to be able to learn. And then I can have it too. We're
There it is, Miss Bobby.
overcomers
There
You
here.
it is.
guys are
Listen,
just
get the book.
Come on, Miss Bobby.
It
Come
is
on, Miss
not a
Bobby.
great read. Look, buy the book. You're gonna need the
look,
workbook. Are y'all hearing me? Get the book.
look,
You're gonna need the
Rachel.
workbook and put the work
You're
in.
gonna have to share that intentional stuff with Bobby because that was
Hey,
intentional.
no, no,
I
I agree.
appreciate
Hey,
it.
hey, hey,
It was
I'm gonna put it on
so
her name
on
and make sure that we
point.
spelled it right this time. But
It
yeah,
was
but I mean,
so on point. My God, thank you so much for that. That was one great way to close. So tonight reminded us that healing is layered, and walking in purpose requires both courage and consistency. We've
Mhm.
peeled back, pressed forward, and made space for truth to rise. But the work doesn't stop here. It
Mhm.
continues between the sessions, in the quiet moments when no one's watching.
Yeah.
Before we close, I want to leave you with this question. Something is sitting with between now and our final gathering. What have you learned about yourself during this series? And what are you willing to release or commit to so you can walk fully in your purpose with discipline? Now, that word is going to stick with me from tonight and maybe throughout the whole weekend. Take a moment to reflect, journal it, speak it out loud. Could you share it with someone you trust?
Mhm.
Healing doesn't happen in silence, it happens in truth. And to our amazing panelists, oh my gosh, I can't say more about you. Your final assignment can be found on pages 28 through 31 in your workbook. These last pages are about integration. This is where we bring everything home. Take your time, be honest with yourself. Your healing deserves that level of care. As we prepare to close, I want to remind you that our next and final panel session for this season will take place on August 15th, same time. It will be our last time gathering in this space, but it won't be our last time gathering together. A powerful moment to reflect, celebrate, and release. Trust me, you don't want to miss it. But before we get there, mark your calendars for August 1st. I'll be sitting down with Dr. Carolyn Stevens and the co authors of Sacred Seeds of Wisdom for a special episode. We'll
Yeah.
dive into spiritual growth, personal power, and the sacred wisdom passed down from woman to woman, generation to generation. Until then, thank you for showing up for yourself, for this community, and for the work. And as always, thanks for keeping it basic. You guys are awesome. Somebody once said, I'm gonna take her words, and I know she's listening, that you awesome sauce. So she's gonna say something. Thank you, Patricia. Thank you, Patrice. I love my side panel. Now we have everybody in here. Hi, Auntie. I love you so much. And that's CBK. So you know who that is. It says, see, now I'm sitting here trying to look without my glasses, trying to play young, but I better put these things on. Don't laugh. Don't laugh. I'm trying to look on cute, as the kids say. CBK underscore FO3 underscore life 3. I'm hoping I'm saying it right. I'm sorry if I'm not. But they said, hi, Auntie. I love you so much. So you know who you are, Auntie. So we're going to enjoy this weekend. I'm hoping everybody stays safe, stay dry, because I know it is bad in some areas. The weather hasn't been too kind to some of us. But stay dry, stay safe. And I'm going to see you guys in about a month. Good night.
Again, I'd like to say thank you, Black Diamond, and every time you come together, you just get so awesomer.
Oh, thank you. I appreciate you guys. Y'all gonna make me cry next time. I better get the tissue from behind me. Y'all gonna have me crying if I'm not crying already. I better get the tissue. I don't know what it is. Since I've been with you guys, I've been turned into a big old crybaby. I should have had y'all in my life earlier. My kids
That's
would have probably said, yeah, yeah, yeah. Because she wouldn't have been so hard on us. But sometimes you just gotta be that
That's good. You're feeling the feels that you created. This is your platform. This is your workbook. Like you are
I
entitled to
agree.
feel
way. No,
all
this
those
is
feels.
ours.
I agree.
I had you guys in mind when you said yes. I've
Hmm.
interviewed each and every one of you, and you sent me your bios. You had conversations with me. So I had you in mind in writing this workbook. So this is our workbook. My name may be on it, but you're all up and through it. Thank you so much. I appreciate you all.
Thank
And
you.
go get that pie.
Yeah.
Add your little extra stuff to it.
We're
Don't
gonna talk.
that discipline.
We're gonna talk. We're gonna talk because
That's the discipline. You got to eat that pie. Discipline eating it.
That's
Mm.
reverse discipline.
what I have done, I figured out a way. I figured out a way. I can put pie filling in a bowl and freeze it. And so
Hey,
when you get ready for a pie, you just thaw it out, put it in the pie shell, and bake it for 45 minutes to an hour.
see, now you asking me to do a little bit too much.
Okay.
Putting it in the shell and have to bake it and turn the oven on too?